What's up, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Call Me Thursday podcast. You're here with your best girl, Sarah, and I'm here with my best girl, Sav, and our new best girl,
Happy
Scar.
New
Scarlet Stearns is on the podcast. What's up, Scar? How are you? Tell the people how you doing, what's going on. Welcome. How'd you get here? Welcome to the
Yeah, I'm
podcast.
excited to be here. Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm excited. I'm expectant. I'm prayed up, ready to share and answer any questions and just do all the girl talk chat things. And it's going to be a fun next few minutes.
Obsessed. Love, 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 love. What's going on in your world these days? How's your day today? We always have a little life update, check in. How are we
My
doing?
day was great. I got like no work done, which is fine. We had like a luncheon that honestly like everyone on my team went to. So we were there like most of the day. And then I went and got my nails done. So that was fabulous. Went with brown. If you can see a little
Oh, a
fall,
fall
yes,
girl.
a fall
Love.
moment. So honestly, right before we got on this call, I was doing work for like 40 minutes and got like half of a task done, but that's better than no task. And you optimize your minutes.
Half a task.
Literally. So yeah, doing good.
Respect on half the task. And you getting your nails done sent me on memory lane because I vaguely remember you posting on your stories and the girls went crazy because you found like a $20 gel
Yeah,
manicure or something like
$30.
that. And the girls were like, where's this happening? So shout out your nail salon.
Shout out
please.
to Julie, my nail queen.
Julie. Love.
Oh my gosh. Do you have a salon that you go to in Birmingham?
So it's actually in Trustful, which is like 20 minutes away.
Okay.
And it's called Nails Today. It's appointment only. And my grandmother has taken me and my cousins to this nail salon since we were probably in like third grade. And I got my nails done at a place in Birmingham and they looked so good. And it was like $80. And I was like, I want to get my nails done again because they look amazing. But I was like, I cannot do that again. And so I went back to my roots, went back to Julie. Now I drive 20 minutes to Julie literally once a month and pay $30 for my dip manicure. Love her.
That's
No,
amazing.
not
Yeah.
dip. You're getting $30
Yes.
dip?
Yeah.
No.
It's crazy.
That's
I
unheard of,
know.
honestly. Okay, I need some background too. So, because Scarlett, I don't know. Background is that apparently you've met my husband in a past life, which I didn't know. I was talking to him before this and he was like, "Oh, you have a guest on the podcast today?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's Scarlett, a girl that she lives in Birmingham. She has a podcast as well." And Christian was like, "Wait, Scarlett, like Scarlet Stearns?" I was like, "Yeah." And
He's
he
like,
was like, "I know her." So yeah, he said that you were, when he was the student coordinator in Gadsden, he was like a youth pastor in Gadsden for anybody who doesn't know the student coordinator terminology, but basically a youth pastor in Gadsden. And he said that you guys like kind of ran in the same circles for a little bit when you were a student.
Yes.
So what a small world. What
Went
the
to
heck?
church in Gadsden and he was the youth pastor when I was a senior in high school back in the day. It really
Wow.
wasn't like that long ago.
Isn't that
But
funny?
yeah, no, that is funny. How the world, so they all just come back together.
They do, especially in the church world. It really is so small. That's so funny. So did you grow up in Gadsden?
I did, yes. Grew up in Gadsden. Have a super unique like story growing up, which I can share some more in a few minutes. I actually started out, we went to church in Birmingham at the Grants Mill campus, and then my parents wanted to start going to the Gadsden campus because our school was like in Gadsden. I had like a lot of younger siblings. So yeah, the G-Town. Old stomping ground.
So they used to drive to Grants
Yes.
Mill, and then they decided to start going to the
Yeah,
Gadsden
we would
campus?
drive to
Okay.
Grants Mill, and we would go to the 4:30 service. We were holding it down. Yeah.
Holding it down. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Wow, small
Nice.
world. That's so funny.
I love that. Sav, update me. What's going on with you? How are you?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I really don't have anything going on. I'll be honest. My hair is brown. I don't know. My hair is brown. I guess this is a little fiasco that I could tell you about. Today I got a random itch to trade in my car. And mainly because my car was an impulse purchase, and my itch to get a new car is my itch to cut my car payment in half. And so I was like, I'm going to go find a super cheap car and try to trade in my car for a really cheap car and hopefully get a lower car payment. Anybody who's in like the financially responsible world, Jonathan, if you're listening to this, I don't want to hear it. Okay. I know, and I don't want to hear it. And so I went, and the guy basically, unfortunately, I found a great car for a great price. Like it was basically so I drive like a Volvo SUV. It was an older Volvo SUV, which I weirdly enough like the look of it better than mine. But it was a lot cheaper. But the guy that was selling it was like a privately owned, like kind of a newer car dealership. And so he was like, "You're so upside down in your current car. I literally can't buy it. So sorry. Like, if you want this car, you're going to have to buy it from me without doing a trade in." I was like, okay, well, that's not going to work. So I'm out here exposing myself in my like upside downness on my car right now. But that's just, I'm just being transparent,
I
guys.
love it.
So that's what I
No.
did with my day today. So my brain is like so fried from all of the driving and all of the like thinking I was going to get all this figured out and then didn't. So it's whatever. We tried it. We knocked on a door. It closed in our face. And you know what? That's life. So yeah.
Not a big deal. You know,
Not a
what is
biggie.
upside down? It'll be right side up. Give it some time.
One day, give it a couple more years and we'll be right side up again. It's okay.
We're going to be right side up.
I'm secure. It's fine. So I'm secure in
secure.
myself.
It's not a
most
big
of the
deal
time.
at all.
Yeah. Yeah. But what's up with you, Sarah? What's new with you?
That's actually kind of funny. Because it's only funny because I know that it's gonna be right side up and it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
Right.
Not a lot is up with me, so we're sitting down to record this, and I sent you guys a voice memo. I had the I seldom lose track of time as a person. Like I really don't. And this is like how I know that like my ideal weekend or my perfect weekend is I don't know what time it is. My ideal vacation is I don't want to know what time it is because I live on such like a every 15 minutes I'm supposed to be somewhere. So I never lose track of time. I lost track of time today. And it was like 5 p.m. I was in downtown Birmingham. I was supposed to be back in front of my computer at 6. I'm like, whoa. But I did have the most lovely spa experience. So and it's like, not me like calling it a doctor's appointment when I leave work. I'm like, I have a
Me
doctor's
too.
appointment. It's like, well, they are.
That was me with my nails today. I said, I have an
Stop.
appointment. I gotta go.
I have an appointment.
Exactly.
It's
And
not
like,
a lie.
hey, I'm HR and I know that you can't ask. So who's going to ask me? Like, I have an appointment. Okay. Is it at the spa? Yes,
It's an
but
appointment.
whatever. But it's still an appointment. Okay. Sound off in the comments. Do you actually call your spa and hair and nail appointments? Do you call it what it is at work, or do you just call it an appointment? I've got to believe
Let me just tell you, as a previous manager, if a girl tried to tell me she had a nail appointment and she needed to leave work early, I would immediately be slacking one of my coworkers saying, "You will not believe what this girl just told me."
That's why we just call it an appointment.
But that's the thing. You say an appointment, my head's like, she's got a doctor's
exactly.
appointment, nothing I can do.
Yeah, it's none of my business. I actually, one of the gals who works for me, this was like her first gig in like a corporate setting, and I'm like, I don't care if you tell me that it's a hair appointment, but just don't tell anybody else that it's a hair appointment on like a Wednesday at like 2 p.m.
It's not that I care if you have a hair appointment or a nail appointment. I just keep it on the DL, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
But or just say appointment. And so I'm like, but I feel like that is like somewhere along the line, we were in an office long enough to learn like you just say appointment, which is such a weird like human socialization thing. But anyway, that's not my story. I just want to shout out. I had you shout out your nail salon. I'm going to shout out the spa that I go to. Shout out to Total on First. Find Jessica. She's one of the estheticians. She's so good. But like customer service, because I was complaining to somebody today about like what bad customer service is. And amazing customer service is after you finish the treatment on my face. So like if I'm getting a facial or whatever, she brushed out my eyebrows and put lip balm on me. And I'm like,
above and beyond.
Just an extra little glow.
Just like above and beyond. Like she, not only did she like, of course, put like moisturizer and all the things that she's supposed to put on, but she brushed my eyebrows back straight after rubbing on my face. And she put on lip balm. Awful. And I'm like, this is customer service. Like,
this is customer service.
And like girls know, men would be like so confused by that statement. Like, good customer service. What about your eyebrows? Like, why did you have to fix your eyebrows? But like girls, like every woman that's hearing this right now, and it's like, that is so thoughtful. You guys, like,
because you could have walked out of there with your eyebrow hairs going in every which direction. You
all over the place. I could have walked out. I mean, she's only in charge of my face. She's not in charge of my lips. She didn't have to put on like, just lathered me up with this like minty lip balm that I'm sure is so expensive.
Delicious.
So I'm just feeling very grateful, honestly. That is my gratitude
It's
for
the
the day.
little
Thank you for
things.
it is the little things. It's the $30 dip. It's the brushed out
It is.
brow. It's the little things that make this life worth living. So that's what's up with me. So not a ton.
Not a ton.
Not a ton to report. Just me being silly, going to the spa, my microphone
You also
like
had
on
your
the
last
run.
dress fitting though.
I did. I did.
Stunning.
I had my
Stunning.
final dress fitting. So it fits like a glove. It's so
That's
perfect.
so
It
exciting.
It was
fits
made for
so
you.
well.
Made for
And
you.
like I just love it so much. And like I think I'm going to do like not like shameless plug, like for my solo episode this month, like thinking about what I want to talk about. I think it's like just these different things that have helped me like have peace with my body. And it's so
Mhm.
cool because I feel like I do just have a lot of peace with my body these days. And there are like things that I've done over the last few years that have helped me achieve that. And it's just so cool because like the seamstress and a lot of the girls that were there were like, oh my gosh, like you look amazing. Like your shape looks amazing. You look amazing. And I'm like, I like, without giving away too many details of my dress, like when I was 10, like the idea of like showing, like having a shape, I'm like, it's so embarrassing. You know, like I was so embarrassed by any shape that was not like pencil adjacent. So just to like have a shape and be excited about it and like be like affirmed in it is kind of cool. So, and
That
to
is
not
cool.
feel embarrassed about it because I feel like there's a period where I would be, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, had my last dress fitting and I feel gargy pargy and I'm so excited.
So exciting.
I love Scarlett. Do you listen to the toast?
I don't.
At
I'm
all?
honestly, you guys, like a
Um,
fake podcaster. Like I have a podcast, but I never ever listen to them. Like unless someone like recommends one to me. I'm a big music listener goer though. Like I just stay listening to
Okay.
music. So no.
Honestly,
But
probably
please
for the
share the
best coming
story.
from
I
other
would love to hear
podcasters.
it.
There's the Toast Girls. It's two sisters, and they're hilarious. They're like so raunchy in their language sometimes, but they have certain terminology that is like if you hear it out in the wild and you don't listen to the Toast, you'd be like,
What?
what did that girl just say? Like gargy pargy. That's a Toast terminology. And like how Sarah's just like saying
Mhm.
gorgeous. That's from the Toast.
well, and
So
truthfully, like I have been on a cleanse of sorts that I think is unfortunately permanent. Like, you know, like when you fast and like then the Lord's like, and we're not going to be bringing that one back. And I'm like, seriously, bro? Like, I love it.
why?
And so it's not coming back for me. But shout out to G, Grace, said like some part of my bachelorette trip. She said the phrase gargy pargy. And like then when we get in the car, I hear like just like the first like couple of words of an episode of The Toast. And she's like, oh, sorry. She's like, I know that you're on a detox. She's like, I'm not, but I know that you are. And the way that my brain, it was like I was on crack. I'm like, and I like just got like a pinch of crack. And I was like,
I
Keep on,
started
keep on.
drooling. Like, give me
literally.
more.
And I'm like, I'm thinking about him now. I'm like, what are they doing? What are they up to? I'm like,
Jackie and Claude, what are you up to?
and then like this whole week, I've been like bargaining with the Lord. I'm like, Lord, are you sure? I'm like, do you think that maybe? I'm like, how about this? How about I just press play? And then if I'm not supposed to listen to it, you can just tell me. But I'm just gonna press play too.
I was so
As soon as they say one
I'll
bad
turn it
thing,
off.
I'll turn it off.
I'll cut it out. I'll
The
turn it
14
off.
It
Lord.
won't
seconds
take
in,
long.
literally immediately. Right?
Yeah, literally.
He's like, okay, Sarah, go
Like,
ahead, turn
great.
it on.
Good luck
First
with
bad
that.
thing. You'll only last about 20 seconds. So
I know, and it's like that's the actual opposite. Like we were supposed to like flee from sin. We're supposed to get as far away as we can, not try to get as
tiptoe
close
around
as
it,
we can.
literally. Yeah.
So I didn't do that, but I'm in the bargaining phase right now. I'm in bargaining.
Yeah.
The stages of content cleansing.
Content
Like the stages of grief.
cleansing.
Similar things.
No.
Mm.
So wait, so I wasn't planning on this, but Scarlett, what you said you listen to a lot of music. We talk about all the time, like, okay, what's the content we're consuming these days? What do we like? What are we putting in that we think it's funny or interesting or whatever? So what like content have you consumed this week? Like, who are you looking at? What are you listening to? What's like in your like top rotation right now?
Okay, I feel like my like Spotify mix right now is a lot of like old school, like Jonas Brothers, Natasha Bedingfield, Chris Brown, Rihanna, like all the old school
Fun.
stuff. Like that's what it's kind of been giving me. That's what I've been listening to, like music wise. I'm trying to think of what I've been like watching in terms of like content. I don't know. My like
Could be a book, a show,
Yeah,
literally
let's
anything.
see. I just finished this book called The Noticer, and it's by Andy Andrews, which is like my grandmother loves his books, but it's a book that's all about like perspective. It's really great. It kind of feels like your grandfather's like giving you advice. So that's what I just actually finished reading.
Cute.
And I think I'm about to start reading Anonymous again. I'm not sure if y'all have ever read that book. I'm kind of in a season of
So good.
realizing that my eyes have been very focused on myself and my prayers and just a lot of things that I'm desiring. And I'm really wanting to just get to a place where my eyes are just refocused on Jesus and making my desires his. And so I feel like that book is just so great for that, because it just reminds you that there's so much power in just being hidden and pursuing God in the quiet places and all the things. So I think that's what I'm going to be reading next. I'm trying to think of like social media. I really try not to scroll these days because I'm like an Instagram addict. Like once it starts, I just can't stop. My TikTok stays like pretty funny, like trends and that kind of thing. But yeah, that's what's in my viewpoint.
Yeah.
I will forever stand. These days, I am so much more an advocate. The words I never thought would come out of my mouth. An advocate for TikTok over Instagram.
Really?
Like in terms of
Yeah,
video
video.
content, TikTok is 10 times more
I agree.
enjoyable
I don't
than
love watching
scrolling reels.
Instagram reels, but I think because of the content I post, that's the content I get. And so like I get a lot of like Christian, like I don't know, Christian trending reels, and that's not what I like to watch.
Yeah.
That's what I like to share, but I like to watch funny videos. And so my TikTok is like all funny videos. So that's all I'm just always, if I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch TikTok or reels, it's gonna be TikTok.
Yeah, I feel
That
you.
actually makes a lot of sense. Like what you put out there might not be what you want to consume. So you have to like go to another place where you're not really putting out content. So that way, that's actually really smart. That's actually probably like a good like hack, like a good social media hack. But no, speaking of, okay, so you talking about Anonymous, talking about kind of what's in your head, what's in your heart, what you've been praying about. I kind of want to start from the beginning because I really want to talk to you a lot about Feel the Smile, which I knew I was forgetting something. Guys, hold please while you start talking. But start from the beginning. Like I know that like I've gotten to know you like obviously at this stage in your life where like Feel the Smile I feel like is thriving. Like you're like one of my sister's best friends. But like kind of from the beginning, I think I said this in the voice note that I sent you guys right before we started recording. Like people say like Scarlet Stearns, she has this like amazing story, and I'm like, does somebody tell me? Like I don't know what it is. And so,
What's the story?
What's the story? Tell me.
Story.
So yeah, no, just whatever you want to share. Like, kind of tell us a little bit about like who you are, how like maybe like kind of how you got to now. You're like Feel the Smile. It's thriving. It's incredible. Like kind of start from the beginning. Tell us about you.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned earlier, like I kind of have this like crazy childhood story that's a little out of the norm from your normal story, but just to kind of start from like the very, very beginning, because I feel like it plays such an instrumental role in just like how I came to know God and like why I clung to him so tightly, and how that's kind of been like such a key role in what I do with Feel the Smile and kind of my heart and work and just ministry and all the things. But I grew up with just me and my biological mom, literally like 3 miles from where I live now, which is such a full circle moment for kind of like what our story looked like then compared to what it looks like now. Slay sweatshirt, Sarah. I love it. Sarah's wearing her.
Wait, is that a Feel the
Yeah.
Smile sweatshirt?
No, it literally
For-
is. And I bought it
Cute.
because I'm like, I have to wear it on the podcast. And I forgot. If you're not watching on YouTube, I just did an off camera change. It's fine.
I love it. And her mom is a sweatshirt
no,
too. She bought a sweatshirt. So
Cutie
leave it to
girl.
mom. Always.
But yeah, I grew up just me and my mom. My mom was a single mom. My biological dad was never in the picture. And life was as good as I knew it to be until I realized it was very different from what everyone around me was experiencing. I did dance, played soccer. Me and my mom would shop on the weekends. We'd go eat out. We'd go to the movies. But when I was 8 years old, my mom sat me down, and in the best way a young mom can explain it to her little girl, she was like, Mom has a drinking problem and she has to go get help. And she was like, I don't know who you're going to be able to live with. I don't know if it's going to be someone in our family. I don't know if it's going to be our family friend. I don't know if it's going to be a stranger, but it's not going to be able to be here anymore. And I remember in this moment feeling so confused because I didn't understand. Because when you don't know what you don't know, you don't realize that your life is unhealthy. You don't realize that your life is experiencing things that an 8-year-old child should never have to experience. And so I just didn't really understand why life needed to be different and why it needed to change. And so at 8 years old, packed my bags and moved in with my aunt and uncle. And when I started living with them, that's when I started realizing, okay, a lot of the things that mom and I did together are not the things that are happening anymore. Or a lot of the environments that we would find ourselves in, like my aunt and uncle, are never bringing me to those. And a lot of what that looked like was drugs and alcohol always being like life of the party, going out to parties with my mom. Just I can remember going on like literally like buying drugs with my mom, all kinds of abuse that you can imagine, boyfriends in and out of the house. And I didn't realize that that was something that like a little girl's eye should never see. And so ended up like taking care of myself at a really young age. Literally anything from coming off the school bus in second grade and like having a key to my house and being at home until my mom came home and I didn't know when that was going to be, to literally helping my mom pay for dinner at night because she was too under the influence to even get up and meet the pizza man at the door, or my mom going and taking our dog for a walk and me realizing that she's been gone for 45 minutes and walk outside and find her passed out on the ground. And just a lot of things like that that were so normal for my childhood. And during those days, what's so crazy is I can see this looking back. I just didn't know, I don't know that I could put words to it until now, but I just felt so unseen by God because I knew that I was broken and I knew that I was sad when we were in the environments that we were in, but I didn't really know why. And I remember spending a lot of nights like crying out to honestly to God, but I didn't know why I was crying. I didn't know why I was upset, but I just knew that like I wanted our life to change and be different. And in moments where I just felt like so unseen, I felt like there was no reason that God would look to me as someone that's worth rescuing. And it's so cool to just look back now and see God's hand like so evident where I was at a conference this weekend and they said the enemy always wants to make you feel so opposite of what God is doing in and through you. And I think in a season where the enemy wanted to make me feel so unseen, like God saw me and rescued me when he moved me in with my aunt and uncle. And so I lived with them for like a year and a half during fourth grade. And during that time, they went to church and their church had like a great children's ministry. And growing up, whenever I like heard about fairy tales, I remember asking my mom, like, is the Easter Bunny real? Is the Tooth Fairy real? Is Santa Claus real? And my mom would always say, he's real if you believe he's real. And so when I heard about Jesus, I was like, okay, you just like have faith and believe in this guy, and like he promises to bring your chaos into order, or he promises to bring purpose in your pain. Like that sounds literally just like a fairy tale, but I knew that my life was chaotic and I knew that if this Jesus thing was real, then my life needed it. And so I think because of what our family had walked through and because of what I would continue to walk through, God really did give me the eyes to see him and trust him at 9 years old. And he just became the anchor for every wave of hardship after that. And so accepted the Lord when I was 9 years old and finished out fourth grade. And at the end of fourth grade, my mom like finished her rehab program, and I was supposed to go back and live with her. And so because I was still in school, I didn't live with her full time, but I would just go spend the weekends with her until I finished the school year. And so there was one weekend in particular, we were driving and we pulled into a gas station And drinking and driving was like extremely normal for my mom. Like, I mean, wouldn't even like second guess it. And so she would always have her drinks in like a styrofoam cup. And I remember we pulled into this gas station and I noticed that there was a styrofoam cup like in the cup holder. And at 9 years old, I knew exactly the questions to ask. And I was like, Mom, can I have some of your drink? Because I knew if she let me have her drink, then it wasn't alcohol. And if she didn't let me have her drink, then it was. And she was like, this is mommy's drink, but like, I'll go inside the gas station and get you your own. So when she walked inside the gas station, I leaned up and like smelt her drink and could smell that it was alcohol. And I just remember I just like broke down crying because I knew that my mom had gone back to the one thing that separated us. And I knew that I wasn't going to tell anyone because I just wanted to live with my mom, which means life was about to go back to the way it was before, which was full of a lot of brokenheartedness and fear. And once again, just feeling so unseen by God. So I ended up moving back in with my mom like at the end of the school year, and it was like the worst summer of my childhood. And I think because I was aware of the problem and the problem got worse, it just kind of like intensified everything that I was experiencing. Um, I don't I've never experienced depression at an age where I was like aware of it, like as a teenager or young adult or anything like that. But when I look back on like my mindset as a little girl, I think that I really was like what depression would look like in a little kid. Like I was just so sad and I felt so alone, and it was like life was so dark and I was full of so much fear and anxiety, and I didn't know what to do with any of it because I didn't want to be the reason that I wasn't with my mom again. And so went through like a lot of dark moments. I remember telling like my babysitter, like, my mom is drinking again, like, you have to help her. And I remember her being like, your mom is fine. But I would never tell the people that could actually do something about it because I think deep down inside, I didn't want them to. Um, Long story short, I ended up reaching out to my uncle and I was like, Mom is drinking again and like, I'm scared and I don't want to be here anymore. So he came over to our house, picked me up, and my mom got checked back into rehab the second time after a series of events with our family, and obviously realizing that they were going to need to find some sort of like long-term placement for me. That was when they found a children's home in Gadsden called Big Oak Ranch. And I moved to Big Oak when I was 10. And I remember when they sat me down at the dining room table and told me that I was moving, it was one of the first moments I can look back on and like evidently physically see like the Holy Spirit working in my life. And I had always feared living with strangers because that was kind of the one like unknown thing my mom had like thrown out on the table years prior. So when my family sat down at the table and they were like, Scarlett, like, we found a place for you to go, I just knew that that was about to be strangers. I didn't understand why I couldn't live with them. I didn't understand all of the boundaries and stipulations that needed to be in place for me to be protected, and that my family unfortunately wasn't going to be able to provide that. And so it was like, I always describe it as the feeling of when your heart drops, except from like head to toe. And I have never felt like more tangible fear and anxiousness in my life. And I remember I kept saying, but I want to live with y'all, but I want to live with y'all, but I want to live with y'all. And I was almost like literally having like a physical panic attack. And my aunt and uncle were like, we found a place for you to live. And at this place, like, you are going to be able to have a mom and a dad, and you're going to be able to live in a house, and you're going to be able to have sisters. And we're going to be able to be your aunt and uncle again, not your mom and dad. And your grandmother's going to be able to be your grandmother again, not your mom. And they had this like magazine with pictures of kids from the ranch. And it was like the moment that I looked at those pictures, it was literally like a light switch, y'all. Like, it was like my fear was traded for excitement and my anxiety was traded for joy. And it was like the Lord just held my heart in that moment and was like, I see you and this is going to be okay. Not because this place is awesome, but because I'm walking with you through this season. And so stepped into this complete unknown realm with literally strangers as my family. And I could sit and talk for hours of how God's hand was just in every single part of the application process and just the weeks before I even moved to Big Oak, and just how he orchestrated relationships and all of those things. But lived with my first family for 4.5 years. And that was from ages 10 to 14, almost 15. So a lot of just physical, emotional, spiritual change and growth that you walk through with this family that you think is going to be your family for forever. And long story short, they ended up having like a failing marriage. And so they actually like left and got a divorce. So it was like, not only was I like losing my parents, but we watched their marriage like fall apart before our eyes. And I didn't care that they had bumps in their marriage like so many other people's. Like I just wanted a forever family, and I was losing that. And so that was a really challenging season for me when I had just turned 15, and I moved in with my second family. And I always describe it as kind of like when you're at your best friend's house and you're comfortable enough to go get a snack out of the pantry, but you still can't like relax because it's not your house. And that's how I just kind of felt over the next like year. I was playing travel volleyball at the time, so I was always gone at practice and at tournaments, and my friends were starting to drive. So when you're 15 turning 16, like you just think you're like running the whole entire world. And throughout all of this time, like I'd had visits with my biological mom, and our visits were great for a lot of years. And I can remember watching kids whose parents wouldn't show up for their visits and then being like, my mom would never do that. And then I remember the day that I was at the office and my mom didn't show up for my visit and being like, something is off and like something is wrong. And so went through like a unique season of just kind of like what contact and like relationship with her looked like. And fast forward the next year, I just turned 16, and my mom called me on the phone and she was like, Scarlett, like, you need to come see me. I don't know how much longer I'm like gonna be here. And I remember being like, what are you talking about? Like, it was kind of one of those things where you're like, okay, is this serious or is it like manipulation? Because you've kind of tried to like beat around the bush to develop like a relationship with me the last few years, and really didn't know like how to take what she was saying. Kind of honestly took it with like a grain of salt. And the next day, my grandmother called my parents and she was like, Scarlett's mom is really sick and like she needs to come see her and spend time with her. And literally in a matter of 3 weeks, like we sat in a hospital room and watched my mom pass away. And so I'm 16 years old. I have just lost my house parents, living with house parent number two. And I just remember being like, my life is a movie. Like, I'm 16 years old. Like, my mom just died. I was like, I don't understand how God could be good. Like, how could God see me and allow all of these things to happen to me? And how could He be able to bring something to this? And I remember my grandmother in the hospital room was like, I know that what we're walking through is so hard. And she was like, but I just can't imagine that God would bring us through so much pain without having a bigger purpose on the other side of it. And that just kind of became my like life motto, for like the walking through like the hardship of losing a parent, like over the next month and year. And in a season where it would be really easy to base God's character on our earthly circumstance, I had to trust what God's word said about him above what anything around me said, because on paper, it looked like God was bad and that God was unfaithful and that God left me and that God didn't see me. But in the spiritual realm, I knew that God was working something for my good and for his glory, and that he would be faithful to his promise, and that somehow, in some way, this would be a beautiful testimony on the other side. I just didn't know what that was going to look like. So that was just a season of really having to like call my heart higher, aside from what it honestly naturally felt. And so 2 months after I lost my mom, our house parents sat us down and told us they were leaving. And I lived with my next set of house parents for 1 month, and then they sat us down and told us they were leaving. And I moved in with my fourth set of house parents, who are, spoiler alert, still my mom and dad now. And I was like, y'all will never be mom and dad to me. Like, my parent or my friends have been better family to me than anyone here has been. And in a matter of 4 months, I lived with 3 different families and had lost my mom, and had honestly just put up a wall to any sort of love that people were going to try to offer to give me or be to me, because I'd just been hurt far too many times by letting people in. And there was just nothing that I could say to my parents. There was nothing I could do, no stomp up the stairs that I could do, or like walk away and stiff arm them, that would push them away from my heart. And during that season, I learned so much about God's heart for us and God's heart to me, is that there's nothing that we can do to push that love away. There is nothing that we could do to change the amount of purpose that He wants to breathe into our lives, and just how much He sees us no matter how bad we're hurting. And really just watched Him like soften my heart to everything that He had for me, and just started just pursuing the path of life and purpose that He had for me. And so fast forward, like ended up graduating high school, went to college at Sanford in Birmingham, and was really planning to pursue like a marketing and entrepreneurship degree, kind of like corporate America girl, was like, I want to work for a business, make great money, and like give it back to organizations and nonprofits. I think it's really interesting. Sometimes in our hardest seasons of life, or when we experience a lot of brokenness, we want to run from like the one thing that God had called us to. And when I was 16, right before I lost my mom, I knew that God was calling me to pursue something higher than what would just like financially bless Scarlet, call it ministry, call it the nonprofit world. But I knew that He was calling me to more. And so my sophomore year of college, had the opportunity to communicate to college students like God's word and just His heart for them. And I just like fell in love with it. And I didn't know what the like passion stirring in my heart was, but I knew that the Lord was doing something, and that He was starting to shift my plan that I had for myself, like He always does. And so really started like seeking God and being like, okay, love to speak, I love to write. Like, if this is a gifting that you've given me, like, just continue to open up doors and opportunity. And He really did. I remember like that following year, I had like a speaking opportunity like every month of the year, which was just so cool and just like such a God story. And just really started to develop like this gift I had of communicating and just like surrendering it to the Lord. And the summer before my senior year of college was when I started Feel the Smile. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that God was calling me to be bold. And I guess I'll just go into this like detail of the story for any of the girls that are with it. But I was working at a local boutique in Birmingham, and we were closing the shop. And I don't know if any of y'all have worked retail, or any of y'all listening have worked retail, but when the store closes at 5, if anyone walks in at like 4:55, you're just immediately like, how could you do that? Like, that we're about to
So
close,
annoying.
And so I had these 2 girls walk in, and I did the like snarky, like close the door and lock it like right behind them after they came in. And they were like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry. Are you about to close? And I was like, no, like, you're totally fine. Like, come on in. And so these girls noticed that the store I was working in was like a Christian boutique. And they were like, oh my gosh, like, is this a Christian store? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, well, we're actually here in town on a mission trip. And I was like, who comes to Birmingham on a mission trip? Like, that's so random. But I was like, honestly, a lot of people here are stuck in like that religious flow. So I was like, we need like some revival, like, come on in. And so I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, what are y'all doing? And she was like, actually, today, like, our assignment is just to go wherever we feel like God's leading us and like ask people to pray for them. And I was like, awesome. I'm like the queen of like wanting to pray for someone else, but like, I'm not going to be the first to be like, receive prayer. And so they were like, is there anything that we can pray for you for? And I was like, yeah, like, it's so funny now. I was like, I'm praying for a husband, and I'm praying for like more speaking opportunities. And I can't ever remember the third thing that I was praying for. So, anyways, they are like, okay, like, we would love to pray for you. So they like hold my hands, like we start to pray, and they're like, God, like, I thank you for Scarlet, and I thank you for the women's ministry that she's going to lead, that's going to impact thousands of women. And they were like, I thank you that you're going to like use her voice, and that you're going to use her story, and that you are going to like give her opportunities to communicate your heart with women like around the world. And I just remember being like, what? Like, I don't even, like, I had not told them anything I don't even know that I even like really desired to like lead a ministry then. I've always loved like girls ministry, and always thought that I would like work for a girls ministry. I never thought that I would lead a ministry. And then even when I kind of was like, maybe I'd like to lead, I didn't think I would do it until I was like 35 and like married with kids. And so I was like, this is like really interesting that she just kind of like prayed for that. And then she pauses and she looks up and she said, Scarlett, like, I feel like God's telling me to tell you that like he wants to use you in a lot of big and mighty ways, but it's on the other side of your obedience and your boldness. And I remember being like, how am I not bold? Like, I talk about Jesus on my Instagram, and like no one else that is my age in college like talks about Jesus on their Instagram. And I was like, I'm so bold. Like, I'm bold about my story and like what's God's done and all of these things. And it was like God was like, no, like you know what you need to do. And I'd had a mentor like encourage me to start a blog like for years. And I was kind of like, okay, like thanks for sharing, but I'm not doing that. And so, anyways, I just knew like that was the one thing that I was supposed to do. And of course, like so many God things, like in all the details of even like creating like our website and getting the name. And so we launched Feel the Smile the summer of 2022. And for the first year, like I would just write blogs and we would just develop other content from that. And then about like a year into it was when we started doing socials, and Feel the Smile social really kind of like put us on the map, I would say. I always say like, not because Feel the Smile is like this amazing thing, but I think it just goes to show how girls are hungry for biblical community and other people to just walk their God given life out together. And it's hard to find because we all crave to do something fun with our girlfriends, and the world is really quick to offer things that are just temporarily fulfilling, but that fulfillment just doesn't last. And so I think that's personally what I think is so fun about Feel the Smile Social, is that it's just a place for you to come hang with your girls and be encouraged and worship and look cute and have fun. And yeah, Feel the Smile is obviously one of my favorite things about life right now, and I have so much fun doing it. It's really cool to watch God build like nothing into something, and it's hard and there are tears, but I wouldn't trade them for the world. And I hope that I just get to forever keep doing more of it.
That's so wow.
Savannah, you have to start. You have to start. You have to start.
Oh my gosh, like I mean just your story to begin with, so powerful and so like I just applaud you for so a lot of people who went through that, especially in your teenage years, would have said, "See ya, no thanks
Yeah.
to God," a long time ago, you know? So that's amazing that you like continued to lean in and like you didn't I mean from what you shared at least, you didn't have any kind of like moral crisis to where like you flipped your life upside down and was like forget God, I'm doing my own thing now. Like that's really admirable and like such a sign that the Lord had his hand
Mhm.
on your life from a very early age, which is really cool. But also I was, as you were talking about Feel the Smile, I was looking at your website and just the photos, and I had seen it on social media a few times too, but like the gatherings with the
I know.
sunset and the like the view of Birmingham, so
Yeah.
beautiful. Like that feels like the most warm and fuzzy girl time that
Yes.
you could possibly curate. So,
No,
oh
I've
my gosh,
been
I
to
want to go
one.
now.
So I've been, you know, I've
Same.
been. I have the sweatshirt. I've been to the
You've been.
social.
Yeah.
I've been. Whatever. Mostly because it's like Emily. So shout out to Emily, my
Love
sister, the
Emily.
middle one. Um, obsessed. Just so good. Just the best of us. She's, and me and Allison openly acknowledge we're like she's the best one. Allison and I will openly say, like, Emily's the best one of us. If anyone, if you're going to meet one Singletary sister, pick Emily. She's the best one. But Emily had just been like, so in our family, if you're not home, you're in the streets. You could be at the doctor's office, but it's like she's in the streets. I don't know
She's
where your
out in
mom
the
at.
streets.
You know, my dad's like, I don't know where your mom is. She's in the streets. She's at a doctor's appointment. You know, she's in the streets. She's playing bunco with the neighbors. Like we just, anytime that you're not at home,
Yeah.
you're in the streets. So Emily had like been in the streets, and I'm like, where are you? Like, where do you go? Where are you going? Literally all the time. She's like, I'm hanging out with my friends. I'm like, who, where, what are we
friends?
doing?
Sisterly
Like,
bond. You're like, who
Emily's
are
out.
your friends?
I'm like, who? Like, what are you doing? And then Emily actually invited me to come. She's like, yeah, Scarlett's having this social for Feel the Smile and da da da. She's like, you should come. So I'm like, well, let me at least go see who all these people are that Emily's been in the streets with for months. And I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. So lovely. Like, I wish I had it, like, if I was more prepared, I would have had it earmarked in my 5-year journal. But it is in my 5-year journal, the date of that social. And I wrote, like, the last sentence was like, being there made me want to love Jesus more.
Mhm.
Which is so cool. It was just the cool. And I was a full on, like, stood in the back. I'm like, what are we, like, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm learning. I don't know
Observing.
anybody. I'm
Yeah.
observing. And I'm like, this is so freaking cool. And I think that, like, I loved what you talked about the girlies. We want girl time. We want quality time. We want something fun. We want something cute. We want something that's like cute you can post on Instagram. We love that kind of stuff. And then I think that even deeper than that, like, this whole podcast is like mine and Sav's friendship. Like, we were just talking about, what is it, 1 or 2 episodes ago, our 60th episode was like our 260th Thursday phone call. So it's like we had 200 phone calls on a Thursday before anybody ever heard one of them. And so, like, and I tell Sav all the time, like, our friendship, like, is one of the greatest gifts that God's ever given me. Like, I remember watching TV shows where other girls had a best friend and being like so green with jealousy, because I'm like, I'm never gonna have a best friend. So, like, just to have one is just the coolest thing in the world to me. Um, like, she's my person that, like, and it's gonna be so interesting now, like, having a husband, and, like, I guess I have to tell him stuff, whatever. But, like, Sav is like the one person, like, she's the person on this planet that is walking this earth that knows literally everything. Like, there is not anything that I have done, have not done, have said, have not said, have thought, have not thought. Like, Savannah, she is my fault. She knows literally everything.
The amount of texts that are like, for the sake of transparency, blah 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 blah
For
blah.
the sake of transparency,
We start a
because
lot of text messages with that.
for the sake of, because I'm the poster child for, you're only as sick as your secrets. Like, if you want to be healthy, if you want to be well, if you want to thrive in this life, you cannot have secrets. That's a whole other sidebar. But, and like, we did a whole series on the podcast, like, Find a Friend. So, like, friendship for us, massively big deal. Of all the things that you could have done with, like, a women's ministry, a girls ministry, I feel like so much of your, like, not only your content, but like the programming, like what you kind of offer the world, is centered around friendship. Like, and I guess you could have probably chosen a ton of other things. So, like, why friends? Why friendship? Why, like, of all the things that you could do to make a difference, why is it having, like, a Cheetah Girls movie night with, like, the Feel the Smile girlies? Like, what made you choose friendship as, like, kind of the thing to, like, latch onto and, like, add value for
Yeah,
people?
when I was in college, I came to college and I was like, I want to pursue God. Like, I want church to be my sorority. Like, I want to be plugged in. Um, and lived that life all the way through, like, almost through my freshman year. COVID happened the second semester of my freshman year. And so that was just like a season of life where it's kind of like all college things are like stripped away from you. You're not around anyone. You're either like at home with your family or like alone in your apartment. And so in a season of life where it was kind of like, I don't have anything to do and I want something to do, you say yes to the one invite that you find. And for me at the time, that was like going to the lake and partying with my friends. And I found myself like starting to do the things that I said that I would never do. Consume with boys, drinking, partying, just living a lifestyle like I always said that I didn't want to live. And during that season of my life, I call it my 3 nights of crazy. It was much longer than 3 nights. But when I was starting my sophomore year after our like COVID live it up summer, during like syllabus week, that's the week that everyone wants to like go out while they can because they don't have any homework. And so I remember my friend would be like, hey, like so and so invited us over. Like, do you want to go? Like, all these people are going to be there. And I'd be like, yeah, totally. Would go, like, drink, wake up the next morning. I wasn't like hungover or anything, but it was like as deep in my spirit before it was an audible voice. It was like God was like, I have so much more for you than what you're wasting your time on. And I was like, okay, yeah, like you're probably right, but like this is what college is for. Like it's for like living your best life and like just going out with your friends because you're never going to be this young ever again. And then my friend was like, "Hey, like so and so's having people over, like they invited us, like do you want to go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, totally. Do the same thing. Stay up late, drink, wake up the next morning. I'm not sick or anything, but it's like once again as deep in my spirit, I can just hear God like so kindly say, I have so much more for you than what you're wasting your time on. Same thing happens next day. My friend's like, so and so's invited us over. Take the invite, go do the thing, wake up the next morning, and the same thing. He's like, I have so much more for you than what you're wasting your time on. And I remember I was in the car driving with my friend, and I was like, God has so much more for us than what we're wasting our time on. And I remember my friend saying, I know what we're doing isn't right, but I don't care enough to stop. So if you want to come tonight, I'm going to go. But if you don't, that's totally fine. And like you can stay in. And I just remember for the first time ever, I was so surrounded by people, yet I felt so lonely. And I remember driving through Crestline in Birmingham, and I just remember you hear all of these like testimonies of people that kind of like hit rock bottom and they're like, I was done with the drinking, or like I was done with the drugs, or I was done with the partying. And it wasn't that got not fun. Like I loved to rally and have a great time and like I love to celebrate. But it was like the Lord was like, Scarlett, the ways of the world will never not seem fun, but you have to be willing to choose me over them because I have so much more for you than what you're wasting your time on. And I remember that moment being like, this is a season where I'm going to have to be really content with me and Jesus on a Friday night because my friends are starting to do things that I no longer can let myself do anymore. And we all desire community. We all desire relationship. And when we don't know where to look for healthy community or biblical community, we look in all the wrong places. I looked in all the wrong places. And what I think is so cool about Feel the Smile is it kind of offers a place where you can look, where you know you want to walk with God, but you just don't know how. And so Feel the Smile helps bridge that gap between wanting to walk with God and being equipped to actually do it. Where here's a place where there's other girls that they want to know God, they still want to have fun and laugh with their friends on the weekend. I had the cutest girl ask me the most like relatable question this week. She was like, how come everyone around me is content with playing Uno on a Friday night and like I still want to go to the frat house? And she was like, I know that I shouldn't, but like I don't want to play cards. Like that's so lame. And it's like it's so real. Like we are all like we're fun. Like we want to hang out and do something cute and take pictures and post on Instagram. But like, how can we create that atmosphere that looks different from what the world is trying to offer? Because I'm all about like dinner and drinks with friends. But I'm also 23 years old. Like, what are we supposed to do for the girls that are 20 and they don't want to underage drink and they want to do something cute and fun with their friends, or they want to find community, but everyone else are doing these worldly cute and fun things, but they just want to walk with God and find other people to do that with. And so that was really the heart behind social, was just being able to bring what we do online to life, but also being able to help other girls like develop community in that. One thing that I love about social so much is it is a community of people from different schools, from different workplaces, from different churches that just have one thing in common, and that's just that they want more of God. And I think it's really hard to kind of find that these days where it's just an atmosphere with so many different types of people from so many different walks of life. But people just want to know God and they just want people to do that with. So Build a Smile Social gets me out for
So
that. Yeah.
that's so good. And like you're speaking to the 20-year-old girl in me is like, oh my gosh, like I wish I would have had something
Mhm.
like that in college. Cause I was like, I mean, I guess I was similar to what you were describing. Like I was very after we got saved when we were like in between freshman and sophomore year, it was like I was really plugged in at church, but I was around a lot of like Bible school students who like kind of had their own circles. And so if I didn't have friends at college, which for the first while I really didn't, then it's like, well, how like I want the setting where I can get dressed up and like go somewhere cute, have something to take pictures at, like have the pretty sunset and like the girl thing, but we're not like getting
Yeah.
sloshed, you know? And like that's so special. That, like, speaks to the
Yeah.
heart of girl.
It-
That's so cool.
No, it so does, and, like, the Uno Okay, you're in the right place because we hate games
Y'all
over
hate
here.
games.
Get
We
out of
hate
here.
games on the Call Me
Oh,
Thursday
we love
podcast.
Uno, and like
Game
I'm at the
haters.
age where like I'm all about like chilling at home, but I was like that could not be more relatable for a college girl. It was so
Exactly. For a college girl, like
Yeah.
the, you know, traditional, I guess like the, and I mean this like in the nicest way possible, like the corny stuff, like the Christian cornball who's like at home playing Uno on a Friday night. Like I don't like being cheesy and saved is like, I don't know, like a subconscious fear. Like I don't like to be like true story. This is real life. So my beloved, who I'm actually getting married to, and it's like I don't call him my beloved, but when I'm talking to other people, I refer to him as my beloved. Trying out names. But
It's a good one.
this man prays for me. Like if I have a stomach ache, he's praying for me. Like on the smallest of little things. Like he is praying for me. He is sending me scripture. He is like man of God, precious man of God. And like I don't find that corny. But real life, I was in college and this dude was pursuing me and I cut him off because I was like, he's sending me too many scriptures. And like that's weird. Like that is so weird. And granted, like if it had been Jonathan while I was in college, I wouldn't have minded because I think like Jonathan he's a man of God, but he's not corny. Like he loves Jesus, but like he's not a corny dude. Like we have the same taste in music. We think the same things are funny. But like if your only thing that you're doing is like, sitting around like, and we're not laughing, we're not talking about the world, we're not talking about culture, we're not talking about sports or music or anything culturally relevant, but like here's a scripture. It's like thank you, and like maybe I'm horrible for feeling like that's not enough for me, but like that's not enough for me. Like I think girls like we want like even the Christian gal, like I want more than just like, oh, he's a man of God who sends me a Bible verse. Like we're compatible and like friends, like, oh, well, this group of girls, they send each other Bible verses, but like they don't really talk or they don't really hang or like they're not really trying to do anything fun. It's like there's nothing wrong with that, but like I do want something that like is more like, I don't know, personality. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that like what you're doing like has the foundation that like is set in everybody's heart. Like you're doing something that foundationally everybody craves, even if they don't know that they do. But like you're putting the personality on it that makes it exciting and attractive and not cringy, which I think is really cool.
Right. Well, it's like when you're in college too, it's like, I mean, college, your 20s, whatever, you've got the energy. Like you've got like, I mean, less so now that I have a kid, but like even when Christian and I were married, I was like, let's go out and stay out late. Like, let's do something crazy. Like you have the energy to do it. And so just because you have the energy, like that doesn't mean that you have to channel that in a way that you're like doing anything illegal or like doing anything that could like get you in trouble with your parents if you're like not in like when you're young and you have that energy, it's like you can channel that in a healthy way. And like I remember when I was in ministry school, like the nights that I would stay out late with my friends, it was like we were doing nothing wrong. Like we were literally just like out late driving around, like being college kids. It's like those are some of my best memories. So that's so cool that you're
it's
creating
so
that.
fun.
That's really,
I
really
love
special.
it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, that is. And I think that like even like this podcast, like to like pat ourselves on our own back a little bit, like it's kind of like create the content that you want to listen to, and like you're creating the hangout space that you want to be in. Like you're creating the environment that you like, that you enjoy, and it just so happens that like other girls like it too, and other girls like identify with it too. But I think that all of us, like in our own ways, like we've seen that gap in the, whether you want to call it the world or the marketplace or the whatever, but like something that's funny and fun and enjoyable and lighthearted and aesthetically pleasing, because let's not pretend that aesthetics don't matter, because they do.
Because they do.
Like that it's all these things, but it's also makes Jesus like smile. And it makes Jesus excited, like no pun intended on the field of smile, but like, I think that that's like something that's worthy, not worthless, something that's additive, but that doesn't subtract, but that is also aesthetically pleasing. And I think that, like, you know, when I'm dogging on like the cringy or the cornball like Christian circles, 9 times out of 10, it's just not aesthetically pleasing. Like, it's all the right ingredients. It
It's
just
not
doesn't look nice, you know? And so, like, to put a personality on it, to put an aesthetic on it, I think actually makes a
Mhm.
difference in like attracting people. And so I just think that what you're doing is really cool. So you're like, socials are
Mhm.
happening, the blog's happening, the podcast is happening, even though Scarlett says she's a fake podcaster. Guys, we gotta get her some podcast recs. She's gotta become a podcast
Goodness.
listener. Um, what else, like, what's next for Feel the
Yeah.
Smile? What's the dream in your heart? What is the, like, man, if we could do this and God's gonna do 10 times more? Like, what's the dream in your heart for what it
Yeah,
looks like?
so we are actually getting ready for our first fundraising event, which is pretty insane. So this year we've like been in the process of getting our 501c3. We brought on like a board and all the things. So that's like some legit accountability like in the organization, which is actually kind of crazy. But we are, yeah, fundraising for obviously like yearly budget. We do socials. You can come to social for free, but we like have a budget for all of that. And then we're also planning to do a retreat in the winter, so like in January. And our dream with that is for girls that get to come cost free. So we're raising money for that at our fundraiser in
Mm.
October, which will be really exciting. And yeah, it's been a super cool season with Feel the Smile. It's one thing for like you to have a dream. It's another thing to watch other people believe in that dream with you. And so that's been like a super surreal season. My like God dream for 2024, and this is just sharing to like give God the glory in it, but was for Feel the Smile to be like financially sustainable for the year. And we hit double that goal in June. And so, yeah. So it's been like super
Oh my
crazy to kind
gosh.
of like have your God dream met. And then God's like, but here's margin for you to like dream even bigger. So I feel like I'm learning how to not be like the ceiling on my own dreams. And being like, okay, like if we have this in our budget, like how would we use it? And then if we had this in our budget, like how would we utilize that? And what that can kind of look
Mhm.
like. So that is definitely just speaking to all of like the inner entrepreneur inside of me, which is just so fun to like develop something and ask hard questions and have to like talk about what you're doing with confidence to other people because there's a chance they may want to write you a check for it. So that's what's next with Feel the Smile. Of course, more socials. We have a social in Auburn this semester and a social in Mobile, which is super exciting. And that's just been so cool to watch God like organically grow those teams that want to see like social come to those towns, which is super great. And yeah, just fundraising, retreat, more socials, more ministry, all the things.
Shut up. This is
Yeah.
so cool. This is like, you're right, like 501c3, like that's legit, dude.
That's
And
legit.
like you're doing all of this, but like today as it stands, Feel the Smile isn't like your
Nope.
full-time gig, right? So like you're working a full-time gig on top of this. We're talking about our appointments earlier. So like we know that like you're in a full-time
Yeah.
job right now. You know what we love to talk about, and I think that Sav and I talk about it so much because like we need to encourage each other a lot. That work, number one, is not like, that's not just your 9 to 5. That's like whatever you're putting your hand to. It's the work of parenting, it's the work of being a corporate girly, it's the work of a podcast, it's the work of a 9 to 5, it's the work of, you know, a nonprofit, it's the work of like putting together a social or a retreat or fundraising. Like, work is anything that we're putting our hand to, even if it's not the thing that
Yeah.
pays the bills. So you're doing all of this and board, 501c3, we're in Mobile, we're in Auburn, we've got merch. Like, you're doing all of this and this isn't your full-time gig. So like, how has your relationship to work evolved? I think having Feel the Smile, I think that's my question, because I can imagine there are probably some days where you're like, oh, I wish like I could just do this all the time with all of my time. But how do you kind of not just, I'm not asking like the time management question. I'm not asking like the balance question. I'm asking like, how do you reconcile in your brain that like this is like, this thing over here like pays my bills, but this thing over here is like the God dream that I put my hand to, and both are important to do with excellence. Like, how do you kind of put all that together in your
Yeah,
head?
so when I was graduating college, I feel like when I was like transitioning into young adulthood, I feel like the hardest thing for me, it wasn't like community, it wasn't finding a job. It was literally like being sure of what God was calling me to. So the whole summer, like right after I graduated, I was like, God, like you are gonna have to like remind my heart. Like, is Feel the Smile supposed to be something that like I pursue like legit? Or is this just need to stay in like college pipe dream lane? And it was so evident like through God's word, but also through people that Feel the Smile was impacting people. And it was something that if I wanted to keep doing it, like God was going to keep blessing it and he had gifted me in it. And so that was when I kind of was like, okay, like I'm about to work and like try to do and grow this thing too. And that has honestly been really hard. I am actually just now like transitioning into a new job, which is a job that I'm so excited about and a role that I've kind of been like easing my feet in. And then now it just like turned into a full-time position. But there were just a lot of days where I was like, I just want to spend all my time like doing this thing. Or if I finished a task at work, I would be like, okay, like let me work on this, build a smile graphic or organize details for this next social. Or like if we're having like a team meeting, like get things together for that. And I think I had to remind myself, like, if I was meant to do that full time right now, then I would be. But God still has a job that He has called me to steward well, and that He is called to teach me things in, that I need to have my eyes open and be ready to learn and receive in that area too. And as hard as it is to not start knocking things off the Feel the Smile to-do list, I knew that like I had to be a good steward of my first primary to-do list, which was the job someone was like literally paying me to do. Um, which was honestly just like a daily battle. And so in that, yeah, I was just trying to like, how do I steward well, like both of these things? I don't know why it was in college. I would work on Feel the Smile at night all the time. But when you're working during the day, for some reason, like you want to be like, I need like a nighttime routine. And so I would kind of stop like doing stuff at night for Feel the Smile. When there's some days where it's just like, I'm going to have to stay up late and like get this done because if I care about this, like I want this blog edited or podcast edited or website finished by this time, like this is just what's gonna like have to happen. It's been really cool, honestly, to be completely transparent. I had gotten to a place where I was like, I just want to do Feel the Smile full time, and I'm just gonna try to like raise my salary and like go for it. I'd met with like a mentor in my life who actually has background in like financial management, and so she was kind of like, you need to figure out what you want to do, and depending on what you want to do, like how much are you going to need to do that, like financially, like how much money are you going to need to make. And I was like, I'm tired of having to do both. And I want to just do Feel the Smile. And I sat down with a mentor, or not a mentor, but this older gentleman who like helps young professionals kind of like figure out like what they're doing if they're in like a mid-20s crisis and are like, I don't want to work, like what am I supposed to do, because obviously like we get to work. And he was like, why do you feel like you have to do everything today? He was like, I feel like you kind of carry a similar pressure that I do, is you feel like whatever vision God's given you, you have to do that today. And he was like, Scarlett, you have the rest of your life to pursue all of these dreams that God's given you. And he was like, take the pressure off of yourself and just optimize where you're at. And I was like, dang it, like he's kind of right. Like whoever said, because I was asking him, I was like, how do I go from working and making money to like doing this thing full time? And he was like, whoever said it had to be in one step. Like, why don't you work and then take a part-time job and do Feel the Smile like on the side, and then maybe transition to like a few part-time jobs and then Feel the Smile on the side, and then maybe transition to less part-time jobs and then more Feel the Smile where you're able to like pay yourself. And he was like, why does it need to happen in one big meeting? Like, why can't it just happen over time? And I was like, because I don't want to do that, you know? And then I met with like another mentor the next week, and she was like, Scarlett, if you had the opportunity to work for an organization that valued what you did at Feel the Smile, but wanted to help you grow in your leadership and grow in your leadership skills and organizational skills, like, would you do that? And I was like, totally. But like, where is that happening? You know, because you kind of feel like you either have to do like remote job where no one sees what you're doing, or in-person job and like hide what you're doing or like stay up late at night is kind of what you feel like you have to do when you are literally pursuing such big things. And the Lord just kind of like orchestrated this opportunity right in my lap where I'm able to grow in what I'm doing as like an administrative support team member. But then also it's like they love Feel the Smile and want to see it grow. And they know that my end goal is to be able to do Feel the Smile full time one day. You know, I always say like, I don't know that I'll ever be able to do just one thing. Like, I don't know that like that's how God's designed me. I just love to have myself in so many different like parts of ministries, helping people like develop or make connections or find partners or that kind of thing. But I do hope that one day I can wake up and like Feel the Smile can be like the priority on the to-do list. And so yeah, we are not there yet, but there's so much value in the season that you're in. If you're listening and maybe you're like, I have this dream that I want to pursue, but like the bills are not there and I literally have to make money, then know like if you were supposed to be fulfilling the dream full time, then like God would have you doing that. It always reminds me that like God does not withhold a good thing from those he loves. And if it was supposed to be good for you to do that full time, then you would have that. But right now, it's not good for you to do that full time. It's actually good for you to learn in the position that you're working from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and to allow God to still steward your heart well in whatever dream it is that you're pursuing. But I just think that there's so much value in these days that we're living in. I think it's really easy to look at people that are older in life that drive a Range Rover and live in a big house and like have X, Y, and Z and be like, that's what I need today. And we neglect to remember that when they were 23, they were also hustling and bustling, like trying to make ends meet, meeting with 10 people a day, trying to figure out how they could add on another client or like pay a bill so that they could get to like where they are now, where they just like bought the thing that they've wanted for 25 years, you know? And so we just get to be in those days. And honestly, I find like a lot of joy in that, getting to just like run my race through hardship. There have been moments like I just think about in particular where I was like sitting in a meeting and it was about Feel the Smile, and it was kind of like one of our or our chair of the board was like, you need to figure like these things out. And it was like a moment where my dream felt so much bigger than me. And honestly, I think like our dreams and goals like should feel bigger than us, because you're the size of your dream can only reveal like the size that God wants to like show up in that. And I just remember like going home and crying and being like, well, I'm not going to quit. So like, I might as well like put my big girl pants on and like walk out the door and go back to the office and like start working on the thing that she just told me I needed to do. And that's just like a daily reminder when life gets hard is like sometimes we just have to put our big girl pants on and be like, God's teaching me so much in these days of having to split my time between what I love and like what God's called me to. But who said that like what God's called you to can't become something that you love and something that you're passionate about? And so, yeah, he's just refining that for me each and every day. And I'm so grateful to truly be in a season of life where so many of the things that I have my hands in right now are things that I love and get to be a part of, and that it's like my greatest joy to show up for. It's just busy, and there's another end goal in mind that one day we'll get to. But for today, we're going to learn to find joy in what's around us.
It's giving mature. It's giving grow up. Like
It's
giving grow up.
like hunker down and just do the thing, you know? Like that's the
like
decision
quit
we have.
complaining, girls. Quit
It
complaining.
is.
Just do the thing. Literally.
Yeah.
No, we've been saying around here for like the last few weeks, like since Motion Conference, it's been like the gals are just growing up. Like and it's just tough, guys. And it's like, we wish there was another way. I wish there was another way. I do. If I had another way, if I knew of another way, I would tell you guys. But I, unfortunately, like, you have to come to terms with like, you just got to grow up. And like, I think the beautiful thing is like, hey, like there's strength for growing up. Like there's strength that's available to you. There's peace that's available to you. There's joy that's available to you, but it does not change the reality that you do have to grow up. And like, it doesn't mean that it has to be horrible. Like, I think the initial was like, you know, me like on crack, missing this podcast that like I can't listen to anymore because it's aging me
Yeah.
backwards. Like like the pain in having to say no to things. That's what I mean is like that's the unfortunate part. Like of course like it is a joy to walk toward whatever it is that God's calling you to, but like that doesn't negate like the pain of what you're having to say no to. And like again, one of my favorite quotes right now is like, what are you willing to give up to be
Mhm.
great? Like, what are you willing to give up to be great? What are you like? You're willing to give up, nights. You're willing to give up some sleep. You're willing to give up some like margin and some like, you know, if everyone else is, chilling or relaxing or they have all these free nights or somehow everyone's reading every book and watching every TV show. And I'm like, with what time?
Yeah.
Like, where are you like, where are you guys having the time to do this stuff? It's like, you're having to say no to some things. And that's the part that like, that's the unfortunate. That's the like, hey, I wish there was another way around it. Like speaking from experience, like I wish there was a way around it, but there is not. And sometimes you just like you gotta it's less you get to a point where it's less about what you're saying yes to and actually more about what you're
Yeah.
saying no to so that you can give your yes to
Yeah.
something else. But there's just not any. I was listening to a podcast today where it's just like a reminder that like again, there are no shortcuts. Like I wish that there
Yeah.
were, but like to have your bills paid and to have a roof over your head and clothes on your back and food on your table and pursue the thing that God's put in your heart, like you got to say no to
Mhm.
some other stuff. Like trying to do a podcast and work full time and get married and raise a child and have a husband. Like, hey, you got to say no to
Yeah.
some stuff, but like it's because you believe that it might actually
Yeah.
matter. Like it might actually matter. It might actually be worth it. Um, so I feel you do, and I think that like what you're modeling, I think because you said you're what 20, you said
Yes.
23,
Yeah.
right? I think what you're modeling for like the early 20s girlies, like I hope that Sav and I are modeling for like the late 20s girlies of like it's actually not all just like aesthetics and Instagrams and like it's actually not all cute all the time. Like sometimes you just have to say no and it's hard and it's not fun and you have to put your big girl pants on. But I think that like modeling that at this stage in our life, I think creates a lot of contrast because I don't know that a lot of girlies are willing to like say yes to like, hey, no, you're not just a girl. Like you got to do some hard stuff and like you got to say no to some things and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm getting a little soapboxy, but I think it's cool. Like I think the level of discipline that you kind of articulate through like, hey, I don't just have discipline over my schedule and over my time, but also over my mind and my emotions. And like, I've not been given a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and like self discipline. Like you kind of disciplined yourself to manage these things and understand that sometimes it's going to be hard, but sometimes it's just what you got to do,
Yeah,
you know?
well,
I think
that's
that's pretty
really
cool.
kind because there are a lot of days where I'm like, I feel like the most least disciplined person. And which honestly, the Lord's kind of like debunked that lie to me. Like literally this week, I feel like just recently, like my mind's just been honestly like so distracted by a lot of things that it's normally not really distracted by, whether it's like relationships or boys or like what I want, my desires over like pursuing God and asking God those things too. And I just feel like the Lord was just really revealing like I think in our efforts of being disciplined, like we just have to realize like what is it that we are desiring like in that? Like are you desiring to like pursue the stream that God's put on your heart? Because if that's really what you want, then you're going to do what you need to get that done. But if you're desiring to come home and have like a relaxing, unwinding routine, then like that's totally fine too. And like pursue that, but you just kind of have to figure out what you want. And I feel like that's what's so hard about your early 20s, and y'all could speak to late 20s too, is just like figuring out like what is the life that I want to live today and what's the life that like I want to create for myself. And then I think you kind of choose like what you spend your time on to create that reality for yourself. And yeah, it's just a lot of emotions for us new young adult girlies because it is hard out here a lot of days. But I'm like, it's so worth it though. Like I would wake up and do it again all the time. So
I so relate with what you said about like in college, you used to work on Feel the Smile at night, but then when you started working like a full time job, you're like, wait a second, I'm really tired like after work and I feel like I need to have this whole routine. I remember that being so jarring post grad, like starting your first job and being like, no, I used to go to class all day and like run around campus and I would feel fine. But like you start working at like a job after undergrad, and you're like, nobody told me I would
Yes.
be this tired. Like, no wonder all the grown-ups are tired all the time. Like,
For real.
geez.
One thing that's like recently blown my mind, which is so silly and so off topic, so forgive me, but is the fact, and Sav may be in this season of her life, but that parents wake up every single day to get their kids at school at 7:30. Like I had to take I work with college students and I had to take one of our girls to work at 8 a.m. And I was like, I cannot believe people do this every single day and take their kids to school and you're fully ready. Like that's one thing about like adulthood that I haven't experienced yet that I'm like, I can't believe people actually do that, which is so normal, like for moms and parents. But I'm over here like, you do that every single day. Like that's insane. One day recently with
That
Emily, I was talking to Emily. It was at like a revival night at church. And I was like, y'all, I got to work this morning at 8:30 and I literally worked until 5:45. I was like, can y'all believe that? Like I was so productive, like I was getting stuff done and I paused and Emily was like, "Can you believe I do that every single day?" And I was like, "You do?" And like my job is so flexible and like I mean, we work all day, but it's also like we go get lunch and go to like coffee shop meetings and that kind of thing too. And I was like, that's so embarrassing. I just made the biggest deal about like actually working from 8 to 5. And Emily's like, yeah, that's my daily routine. But it's tough.
No, it is. And I'm really grateful, at least for right now, we don't do like the daycare thing. And so I like relish in the slow morning life right now and not having anywhere to be. But like when we were on Sarah's bachelorette trip this past weekend, Katie McKenzie, shout out to Katie, she was talking about how, because she's a nurse practitioner, Sarah?
Yeah,
Okay.
pediatric nurse practitioner. Yeah.
Yeah, pediatric NP, and she works full time. And like we were talking about what time we get up in the morning and stuff. She was like, "Yeah, I try to get up like between 5 and 5:30, so I can like have a little bit of a quiet time and like I can get ready before Mac wakes up. And then like once he's awake, I have to get him ready and get him fed and like have his stuff packed and then get out the door in time to like get him to." And I was like,
Crazy.
that is, I'm tired
Me
just
too.
thinking
Because
about it.
being up
I
for school
really
is a
am.
fever dream. And I'm like, the fact that they have to be up for that and they don't even go to school. They just have to get their
Yeah.
kids there, which is just crazy.
Oh man.
That
Yeah.
is like, and I will never forget. Whenever I was in college, and the woman who discipled me literally taught me how to pray, taught me how to read my Bible, like just how to study my Bible and stuff. I remember her telling me like, this is the most free time you're ever
Mhm.
going to have. Saying that to me in
And I
college,
was like, I'm so
Busy,
busy. What do you
literally.
mean?
was offended. I'm like, mm, that's actually so rude. You obviously don't know that I am like the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and the SGA, because like, and I'm the homecoming director. Because like, if you did
You
know,
wouldn't
you
have
wouldn't
said
have said that. You
you would know
know,
I'm busy.
you wouldn't have said that.
So
You would know that I'm booked and busy. And it's like, is she right or is she right? That was I've never had as much free time as I had in undergrad. And like,
never.
I'm like you, Scarlett. Like, I don't know that I ever will. I don't know that, like, I shouldn't say ever, but like doing just one
Yeah.
thing. Like, I think, like whenever I was in grad school, I was like, can you believe I would come home from work, eat, and then work on like graduate level accounting until like 10 p.m. And then I would wake up the next morning and I would go to work every day. But it's like whenever I stopped grad school, I was like, this is the lap of luxury. Like, people are just getting off at 5 and coming home and just
Nothing
sitting
to
down
do.
and
And I'm
doing
like
nothing.
getting off at
Like,
5 and I'm like, how did I survive the day?
no,
It's tough
and
out
now
here.
even with the podcast, it's like on which I touch the podcast probably 5 nights a week, 7 nights a week. I look at it, I touch it, I think about it. I'm not like, because I don't want to like, be feverishly working every Wednesday night on it. I touch it probably every day, but like, I don't like that. To me, like, that just feels like, once you've gotten in a little bit of flow on it, it's not easy, but it's
Yeah.
easier than it was over a year ago. But like, if I didn't have this, it's like, oh wow, like I'm living the high life. Like, I'm coming home from work at 5. I'm taking a shower. I'm showered. I'm clean by 6. Like, this is
Yeah.
crazy, you know? And so, like, always having just something else that I'm doing. I don't know, it's fun. Like having a passion project, having something to like put your hand to that like also I think helps if you're not loving your work right now, to whoever's listening, having something else to do. Like you got to like build your life outside of what you're doing at the office. Cause I think for me, it has in seasons like helped offset whatever frustration I'm feeling at the office with like, okay, I've got like True 40 or the podcast or friendships or who you're dating or whatever it is, like pouring that energy into like a relationship or a project. And reminding yourself that like your life isn't horrible, even if the last 8 hours were horrible, you know, because you have
Right.
other things in your life that are going for you,
Yeah.
you know?
So true.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody needs a passion
Yes, I do.
project. Stand
I'm
by
convinced.
that.
I
Stand
agree.
by it. Well, I can hear my child screaming in the other room, so I should
Sweet
probably
buddy.
wrap it up
Land
and
the
go get him
plane.
some dinner. Yeah,
We
land the
call it
plane.
landing the
But
plane.
seriously though, Scarlett, this
Yes,
was
it
so good. Thank you
was.
so much for like sharing your story and being vulnerable, and for everything that you're doing with Feel the Smile. I know that it's impacting so many of the girlies, and we need it
You're
out
the
here.
best.
We
Thank y'all so
do.
much for
We need
having
the
me. I'm
encouragement.
honored that y'all would want to listen to my voice on a Thursday night, and I hope that something encouraged your heart.
No,
Totally.
I feel encouraged. Oh, and I want to add to, you said like hearing your voice. Just to affirm like the communication gift, you have a great, like I like the sound of your voice. I really like the way that like you sound. It's pleasing to my ears, but also you are really really well spoken. Like you pace
you
really
totally are.
well. You're really thoughtful. Like it doesn't sound like you're just like grasping for words. Like it seemed like you come across as somebody who like you think through what you're saying. You're intentional about what you're saying. You say it in a way that's easy to understand. I think that's really cool. I think especially like Sav and I are always really mindful of, even at the beginning of this when she said student coordinator and then she was like youth pastor, for whoever might not get that. Like I think that you're like, obviously like Jesus is all up and through your story, but I even think the way that you talk about it is like, it's not I at least I don't think it would be intimidating to somebody who doesn't know or hasn't heard or hasn't believed. Like it feels really accessible. So it's like really deep and really powerful and really weighty, but also really accessible, which I think is such a cool combo that I don't think everybody has.
Thank you.
Totally.
Thank you.
So
So grateful
killing
for
it.
gifts from God. He's the best for giving them.
Yes.
He's
Shout
the
out to
best.
God.
Shout out. You're the best.
Love
Dad.
you.
Cool. Well, okay. Well, we wrap up every episode with talking about what we're excited about. So, Scarlett, what are you currently
What am I
excited
currently
about?
excited about? I'm trying to think. I'm really excited for our Feel the Smile fundraiser. I've never done anything like this before, so I'm excited to learn and grow. But I guess like what I'm excited about like soon is me and some girls that I like mentor. We're all going to a women's conference this weekend. And I was literally at a women's conference last weekend, but that's just my jam. And we're going to one again. So that will be fun.
Love.
A weekend for the girls.
Love.
So
Before we
fun.
move on though, give us the details really quick. Fundraiser. Give us the deets.
It's called Smile Soiree. It's October 8th, and it is a lunch and silent auction benefiting Feel the Smile. So we will be raising money for socials, but also for our retreat in January. I'm really excited.
So
Obsessed.
fun.
Where is it?
It is
How like I guess people just follow
Yeah.
Feel the Smile for deets.
You can
Yeah,
follow
okay.
Feel the Smile for deets. You're more than welcome to message me. It's at Ascend in Birmingham, which is right behind like the Grandview Hospital. Super cool. New building. I actually live and work here. Fun fact. But yeah, that's where we're having it.
Amazing.
And we're super excited. If y'all are interested, just message me.
Love.
That's so
That's
cool.
Amazing.
Yes, you guys go check it out.
I am excited to take this slick back pony down. My head hurts. I slicked too close to the sun today, so I'm excited to take my hair down. I actually got so sad though because Emily braided my ponytail, and whenever I was at the spa, the lady asked me like, "Oh, like you braided your ponytail? It's so cute." And I'm like, "Actually, I didn't braid my ponytail. My sister braided my ponytail, but now you just made me realize like who's gonna braid my ponytail? Like, what am I supposed to do? I can't braid my own hair."
Jonathan's
I'm
like,
like,
braid my ponytail.
picks up phone, babe. We're gonna need to talk about
Gotta
something
get on
later.
YouTube and learn how to braid.
I need you to be able to braid my ponytail because I was gonna braid my ponytail.
Literally.
This my hairdo today made me like so emo about leaving my sister, but
Aw.
also I am ready for it to be
Yep.
done. Because I'm not blinking. Sav, what about you though? What are you excited about?
I am excited about a little side dish that I'm making for dinner tonight. My mom made it for me when I was in town this past week, but it is you take like little clusters of green beans, fresh green beans, and wrap them in bacon,
Yum.
and then you drizzle, I think it's like garlic, butter, and brown sugar. You mix that together and drizzle it on top, and then bake it in the oven until the bacon gets crispy. I'm making that for a side dish tonight, and I'm so excited
Yum.
about that.
I'm excited for you.
Sounds so good. Yeah, it was one of the best things I've ever had in my life when my mom made it the other night.
That
so.
sounds amazing.
Delish. Yeah. But anyways, well, thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Call Me Thursday podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment on YouTube and follow us on Instagram at Call Me Thursday Podcast. And also follow us on your podcast app so you never miss an episode, and leave a 5-star review and let us know why you're loving the pod. So Sarah, I will call you Thursday.
Sounds like a plan, sister. I'll call you Thursday.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.